Morning guys. Alright, so I've got the Nucleon 4 here. I've hesitated to do a review on the Nucleon 4 for a while, and it was simply because there's been so many really great reviews online on YouTube. So the reason why I'm doing it now is because a lot of people have been asking me to try and compare the Hadron 3 and the Nucleon 4 with one another, simply because of the experience that we have with cross-country racing, etc. So there's some weather blowing in, it's coming in fast, so we're going to have to try and address all of the topics rather quick. I'm not bothering with unpacking and what it's in the box and whatever else. I'm going to cover speed, I'm going to cover handling, I'm going to cover takeoff and landing. So let's just get right into it. Very noisy very quickly. We've got a whole bunch of pilots that want to get airborne, so excuse the noise. Alright, so right off the bat I can tell you a very big plus with the Nucleon is that it's got the TEA system in it. And basically that means that it's got a torque offset. You connect that line onto the riser system, and basically what you've got is on the opposite end of the twist it'll be rolling to, the TEA line will break on the side that wants to overspeed. So you basically are pulling, instead of rolling to the right, for example in Nirvana, you'll be pulling it straight up. And that's been one of the biggest factors for us to try and eliminate torque, besides having twist air on something like the F-Light.
Alright, so let's get down to the nitty-gritties. First one will be a trim slow speed test. Heading into the wind, and I've got 23 knots into the wind, 24 knots, 23 knots into the wind. Okay, turning around. Okay, let's make it a odd 28. Average speed of 26 knots. Trim's closed. Alright, let's go trim's open. But it's giving me 35 knots. 35 knots downwind. Let's turn into the wind. So top speed of 31.5 knots in the trimmers. Okay, let's see what she does on speed bar. Stepping on the bar. Oh, that's a nice soft bar. It's not high pressure bar like the work. 35. Okay, stabilizing at 35 knots. 35. Okay, stabilizing at 35 knots. Go around. 41. Okay, let's go with 41. So it's 38 knots, including speed.
Alright, let me chime in while you guys are watching the footage. The Nucleon 4 has got an aspect ratio of 5.6. So what that means is it really is the sporty option when you are going to do the step up from something like the Solo. So it's got a light brake pressure, it's easy to throw around and very enjoyable. It might lose a bit more altitude in the turn than you would find on something like the Hadron 3 and the Warp, but it's extremely agile and very, very enjoyable. Here's the important thing. A lot of you might wonder why those little toggles are in place, separate from the 2D steering. Now this, to me, is one of the most important features of this glider, because it means it's cross-country ready. On an aspect ratio of something like 5.6, you would expect that the glider would oscillate a bit more when it hits the rougher air. And having something comfortable like this little tip steering toggles would be ideal for rougher air to just keep directional control. You don't even have that on something like the Hadron 3 standard, and I would suggest that anyone looking at the Hadron 3 order that with that specific model. Now the Hadron 3 has got a 6.0 aspect ratio, And if you had to do a direct comparison between the two gliders, I have to fly a Nucleon 22 for my weight range, or a comparison of a Hadron 3 size 20. So with less surface area, it's got less drag, so you'll have more speed, more fuel efficiency with the Hadron 3. But still, this Nucleon 4 came out as a sporty offering that is cross-country ready, and that makes it pretty unique. Very, very good package, Dudek.
Let's look at climb rate. The trim's closed. In the warp, I can get 11 feet per second with this engine. I'm getting 7 feet per second with this engine. Right, in these conditions, 17. I'm getting 8 feet per second. But it's absolutely perfect. You're looking for a really great cross-country cruiser that's got fantastic handling, a little bit less speed than you'll have on the warp in the Hadron 3. Then this is the glider for you. It's a serious improvement on the Nucleon X6, guaranteed. Alright, so let's cover the landing. Speed is 22 knots into the wind. It's pretty much spot on what you'll find with something like the Solo. Quite a bit of wind, so that might go up to around 23 knots, but I did not close my trimmers all the way. I'd like to have a bit more flare capacity, and if the other Dudek range is any gauge to this, I would say that opening up the trimmers is kind of important. I'll fly her in. Is she going to float or is she going to go down?
Alright guys, back on the ground, and the conditions really weren't perfect, but the glider, it flew like a dream. I would really recommend the Nucleon 4. It's a major improvement on the Nucleon XX. Let's talk about some of the challenges that the XX had. When you get to the maximum payload of the glider, it started to give you a bit of a ground roll. That was typical in most of the XX gliders, and that started to be improved with the new generation that came in with the Hadron 3, the Warp, etc. So the Nucleon XX, the Nucleon 4 has been improved on that side. I definitely felt a major improvement with the takeoff. As the glider came up, my feet popped off the ground. Didn't take much to get me airborne. Guys, it's a fantastic glider, sporty / cross country. Step up from something like the Solo or the Universal, and from there you could try and leap up to the Warp if you wanted to, eventually, years down the line or whatever. But you're not going to be disappointed with this glider. I certainly thought that it was a worthwhile experience, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and for any long-term review on this, I'll be catching up with you guys a few months down the line. Adios.